Hello gentlemen, Mr. Brown here, coming at you with another video lecture. Today we're going to be talking about forests and fisheries. And you might be wondering to yourself, what do fish and trees have to do with one another? Well, if we look at the book, we see that they're both living resources. And we're going to talk a little bit today about how they are important parts of our everyday lives, particularly here in Louisiana. Louisiana is among the top timber producers in the country. The vast majority of the state's trees are softwoods like pines, and they're harvested primarily for making wood pulp and plywood. Here we see a map showing the percentage of forest cover by state, and we see that Louisiana is right at about 50% of the state is covered in forest. The Louisiana seafood industry generates over $2 billion in annual sales and supports over 30,000 jobs. In addition to that, recreational fishing adds another $2 billion on top of that and supports nearly 17,000 jobs here in Louisiana. 1/3 of all oysters harvested in the United States are done so right here in Louisiana. So in this chapter, we learned about management of forests and different types of logging techniques. One thing we saw was clear cutting, which is definitely more in line with the development viewpoint, in that it's chiefly concerned with how the environment can benefit us. In clear cutting, all the trees in an area are cut down at once. So say we want to build an airport or a subdivision. In a lot of cases, we would have to clear cut that entire area, raise it, so that there are no longer any trees in our way. Selective cutting is where you cut down some of the trees in the area, but you leave a mix of species and sizes so that they can replenish their numbers. This seems to be more in line with the conservationist viewpoint, in that we are using nature for our benefit, but we are making sure that we don't deplete the resources for future generations. Remember, the preservation viewpoint is a hands-off approach. So if you subscribe to the preservationist viewpoint, you would be in favor of no logging at all. The textbook defines a fishery as an area with a large population of valuable ocean organisms. So certainly that would apply to our Gulf Coast seafood industry, in that we have many types of fish that are highly valuable throughout the country and the world. In both trees and fish, we have what's called sustainable yield. And in the book, we see that sustainable yield is a regular amount of renewable resources, like trees, like fish, that are harvested without reducing the future supply. So let's jump into the Section 2 review on page 95, and we'll start with number 1. Describe one example of a sustainable forestry practice. And if we just go back to that section on forestry, which starts on page 92, we see there are two types of sustainable forestry practices. One is sustainable yield, and then the other one would be certified wood, which kind of works like an organic label would on a piece of fruit that you would buy from the store. When you're buying wood that is certified, they're letting you know that wherever this was harvested from, that forest is managed using sustainable yield practices. Number 2, what are 3 ways fisheries can be managed so that they will continue to provide fish for the future? And we can look on pages 94 and 95 to see the full list. There are 4 of them. We see fishing limits, fishing methods, aquaculture, and then new resources. Number 4 asks us, why are forests considered renewable resources? I mean, it's not like the sun, it's not like wind, in that these sources cannot be depleted. However, if we enact responsible methods for logging, like sustainable yield and like certified wood, then the forest will have time to replenish themselves over the year. And number 5, thinking critically, comparing and contrasting. Describe the advantages and disadvantages of clear cutting and selective cutting. And just like every week, gentlemen, I'd like for you to go on to the Canvas chat and I'd like for you to post your answer to this question in about 3 to 4 sentences. Talk about the pros and the cons of both methods. I look forward to reading your responses. We will be continuing in this chapter and probably finishing by the end of next week, preparing for a test the following week. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to shoot me an email, and I hope you're all doing well.